Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Steve the Missionary Bathrobe Chat, where we talk about what's going on in the world, especially in Catholicism. This week, my name is Steve the Missionary. Let's get started. Today we've just finished a full week of Women's World Cup soccer action, and that's what I want to talk about today, is the Women's World Cup. And I have already a few opinions about it. So let's start this right now. Greetings, Sean. Let's do this. I hope you have some Women's World Cup opinions as well. All right. Number one, we need to murder the VAR machine, the VAR, the video assisted referee. It needs to go away. It needs to die. It needs to die painfully. Like, I want to set those video cameras on like a pyre of some kind, put some lighter fluid on it, catch it on fire, and then throw the ashes into the sea, because it's disgusting and it's wrong and it's hurting the sport terribly. I've had a miniature conversation with Luke from Catching Foxes about this, and we might explore this a little bit more in like a co-podcast thing. But the number one, so let me tell you what it is. Video assisted referee is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of video cameras on the field, especially looking at the penalty box area of the field, and during the play of the game, the referee has an earpiece, and they will be told, "Wait, don't pause the game. We are reviewing the last play." And so the referee will hold the game. Wait, we are reviewing the last play, and then they say, "We think that there is a foul. You need to go to the camera, to the monitor." And so these people go to, and so the ref will then make a nice little motion. I'm going to the monitor. We'll go rewatch the play over and over and over again, and then decide if that is worthy of changing the original call, whether that was a non-call or whether it was a specific call. So this has been used a lot in things like handballs, and things like calling back a goal. Originally, the only time it was ever used was to double check that the ball had actually crossed the line in a goal, which makes complete sense, and everybody was okay with it. And that was the extent of a video assisted referee, was, did the ball cross the line? But now, in the middle of a game, after a call that the ref had already done, the ref was told to pause the game, was told to go to the video monitor, and then would change a foul that the players had forgotten, the fans had forgotten, and the ref had already deemed not worth caring about. And oh my gosh, this becomes, for the most part, penalty kicks, and this becomes a handball, and this becomes a extra yellow cards, and extremely minute hair splitting interpretations of the rules, when soccer has been all about the rules interfering with the play of the game as little as possible. And that's so much of what the players and what the fans value in the game, is that there's very little interruption. This is we're very proud of ourselves that this is not American football. This is not basketball. The game there are no timeouts. The game is interrupted as little as possible. That's why the field is so wide, so that there's even less, out of bounds calls and stuff like that. And Ashley just noted, it takes some of the fun and pacing out of the game. And then on top of that, it forces the referees to have these hair splitting definitions of what a high kick is, what a cleats up foul is, what a handball is, and what a goalie off the line is, and what various other things, as opposed to a ref saw a play happen. Did someone gain an unfair advantage because they did something bad? No, keep going. And it ruins the referee's ability to let the game continue and to dictate the level of strictness to the rules that they're going to play the game at, because every game is different in how strict they're going to interpret the rules. So this is already happening. And then just now, like an hour before we started this, the United States, Nigeria played France, and Nigeria, and then all of these calls were VAR calls. France gets a call in the box, and they are awarded a penalty kick, and they kick the ball. The ball hits the post and goes out of bounds. It missed. It's a missed penalty kick. Massive event. By the way, the score at the time was 0-0. And France was alleged to be this amazing team that should have destroyed Nigeria. And Nigeria was playing phenomenally and holding, what are they, like second or third in the world, France, to a 0-0 game, and putting a ton of pressure on the French goal, and all of these really awesome things. And this gimme of a penalty kick at the end of the game, which already would have, even if it was a fair call, which it might have been, even as a fair call, leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And that so, like I said, that's the game setup going into this penalty kick. The penalty kick hits the post, goes out of bounds. The ref hears the VAR. Pause the game, look at the monitor. We want you to review this play. And it is deemed that the goalie, who is supposed to stand on the goal line until the ball is kicked, that the goalie, who's supposed to stand on the goal line until the ball is kicked, was one step off of the goal at the moment that the ball was kicked. Literally one. I can't show you my feet. Literally, one foot had like the heel at the very back of the line, and then the other foot was a step forward. So technically, both feet were off the line, and um, and that was given. And even though that happened at the moment of the kick, and not like she was walking out multiple feet like America's goalies have done in the past, and it clearly did not affect how the ball moved or how it was kicked, because it hit the post and went out. And on top of that, there were a lot of players already, French players, who had already run into the box, which is also illegal in when you're doing a penalty kick. They gave another kick. They decided to redo the kick to France, and France scored that second penalty kick. Um, I'm sorry, that's not how soccer is played. There have been calls of accusations of racism, and I totally get it. There have been accusations of hypocrisy, and I totally get it, because if you're going to be that nitpicky, then every French player that has ever stepped into the box before the ball was kicked should also be given a yellow card. The goalie was given a yellow card, and they lost the game because that was the only goal in the whole game. So it's changing the way, the nitpicky way in which we're doing the sport. It's being applied unevenly, and it's ruining games. And it's like Ashley was saying, it's ruining the flow of the game. Soccer is a game of momentum, ebbing and flowing. Producing that momentum over a long period of time until you can score. And when soccer is just paused for no reason, like literally no reason, the referee has been watching the game the whole time and has chosen to let the game continue, and then somebody watching a monitor chooses to tell the ref when to pause the game, which has nothing to do with, and that choosing and the timing of that choosing has nothing to do with what's happening on the field. No, you are ruining the flow of the game, the play of the game, and VAR needs to die. Luke says that it's not the VAR needs to die; it's that the rules need to be less strict, and if we're going to have VAR, we need to rewrite some of the rules, and that just turns this into American football, where there's a new set of rules every year, and not even the announcers can keep up with what's going on, and American football sucks now. So there's that. I don't want to be that. Um, so that's I don't want to do that. That's not what we are. That's not what we're about. That's not what soccer's about. That's not what soccer fans are about or players. Maybe that's what FIFA's about because FIFA is awful, but you know, that's that's where we are. Next is the issue of stars. In international soccer, every team has this sort of crest going on. I'm sweaty. Sorry, everybody. Um, every team has their nice little crest. Ours says USA with some stripes going down it. The French always had this rooster. Every soccer federation has their own little design that they put on this nice little crest. Teams that have won World Cups get a little star above the crest. And so that means that the Brazilian soccer team has 6 stars across. The Brazilian men have won 6 World Cups. Same with the Italians. The French just earned their 2nd star. And it was a big deal last World Cup when the United States became the first women's team to earn 3 stars. That was a massive event in women's soccer and in U.S. women's soccer. The Brazilian women's team has 6 stars above their crest. These are 6 stars that were earned by the Brazilian men's team, and most of these stars were earned before they had a women's soccer federation. And in essence, even though they are off, and especially in South America, actually, men's and women's federations of soccer are completely different programs with completely different players, completely different coaches and managing styles of play, histories. Your program, your players, your coaches, your managers did not earn those stars. You, Team Brazil, do not get to wear more stars than our women who earned all 3 of their stars. The French team, the French women don't put 2 stars on top of their rooster. The American men don't put 3 stars on top of their shield because they didn't earn those stars. Brazil needs to take the stars off of their jerseys, and I don't know why I care so much about this, but I think it's especially when we play them and they brag and they do this implicit brag about having a better soccer history than our women do, which is decidedly false. The Brazilians have never won a women's World Cup, and for them to waltz onto the field and act like they have a more illustrious history than ours is fake and is a lie. And the women, I care too much about this, and the Brazilian women need to take the stars off their jerseys. The French don't do it. The American men don't do it. No one does it. Stop. And it's a lie. The biggest, I'm sorry, I had to, I get worked up about that one. The first game that the United States women played was against Thailand. And Thailand is very much bottom of the barrel in terms of, Rebecca said something. I cannot imagine what it's like to care this much about sports. A Canadian team won the NBA last week, and I couldn't be bothered to care about sports. And Shaggy responded, "It's because I care about justice." That's right. This is all about justice. Yeah, I'm usually not the sports guy, although I was sad that Toronto beat my Golden State Warriors. But soccer was the sport I always grew up on. And when you go through the pain of being a U.S. men's soccer fan and through the elation and of being a U.S. women's soccer fan, but also the struggle, the kind of underdog struggle of wanting women's soccer to succeed, you care about these things because women's soccer on the club level now is always on the constant precipice of failure, of collapsing and not existing anymore. So you constantly want it to be there. It is a good thing, and it is a good community that it builds, and I want it to continue. And so when things weaken it, that matters to me. And I think something similar to that can be said to most sports fans, is they find something good about the community that it builds, and then when they see something, and then all things change, but when they see a change that could potentially weaken the experience, the community, the actual play of the sport itself, they take that very seriously because all sports have the ability to not exist. They are very much kind of superfluous. Like America would not collapse if the NFL disappeared. But so much of what people value would be lost, and so they fight about it. Um, I don't care about the NFL as much to know what their fights are, but I can understand it um, based on how I talk about women's soccer. And Rebecca thinks that people's brains would be better if the NFL disappeared. I'm not gonna say I disagree with you, Rebecca, but I'm also not gonna comment. So the United States. Our first game was against Thailand, which was 13-0. Was the score. Uh, Absolutely destroyed Thailand, who is a very bottom of the barrel team, and so there were kind of two whatchamacallit, there were kind of two complaints about the United States team. One was the weakest complaint, that was that you don't need to score that many points against a team. There is an element of mercy in just stopping at 8-0 um, instead of going all the way to 13. And okay, the difference is, one, that's not fair to literally all the players that haven't scored a goal at the World Cup before, which is also a weak argument. The strongest one is, of course, goal differential is a thing. In these group plays, you're in a group of 4 teams, and you play the other 3 teams, and the top 2 move on to the knockout stages. And the top 2, if there's a tie, or especially if there's a tie between 2 and 3, these are kind of dangerous spots to be in. So if the top 2 teams are tied in their points, the difference goes down to how many goals did you score versus how many goals were scored against you. And the United States wants to be on top and needs to secure themselves a good goal differential. So 13-0 is necessary when you're going against Sweden, who has won all their games so far and could beat us to the top of our group. And it's most beneficial for us to be on the top of the group. So the fact that we have 13 points 13 goals scored in that game is very important going into this next game. And so that was kind of the weakest argument. The stronger argument is, after every goal, including 10, 11, 12, 13, the United States did a full celebration, jumping around, sliding on the grass, getting mobbed by the rest of the players, doing funny dances. And that was deemed to be low class, unacceptable, not what you want to see in a soccer game, that sort of thing. And the best defense for that was actually given by the players themselves. They were interviewed. So there were some people that were like, "No, you want to destroy your opponent, and you need some sort of you need to be out for blood for every opponent. Otherwise, you're not a good athlete." That's okay, I guess. But it doesn't. You can't use gamesmanship to destroy all semblance of sportsmanship. So that's one thing. But the other one was the defense given from the players, which was, this is a World Cup, and every goal that our teammates scored was a World Cup goal. And when someone scores a World Cup goal, you celebrate with them and you celebrate what they did, because that's the biggest stage in the world, and they deserve that, which is fair, which is entirely fair. And for other people to try to steal that is a little much. That being said, the one that I saw, the one celebration that I saw was Abby Wambach, and or no, not Abby. Megan Rapinoe. And Megan Rapinoe came in and slid, and like, she's a World Cup vet. She's scored before in other World Cups. Comes in, slides, does a funky little dance on the ground, and while the other team mobbed her late in the game. And Megan, look like you've been there before. That's peeing on someone's grave a little bit. And so I can see what people are doing. The coach smartly did not put Megan in the next game. One, because we were going to win, and two, just to clear the air and to make it not a thing anymore. And we won the next game pretty resoundingly. And I'm excited to see what happens next for the World Cup. My only opinion is that France and Germany will not be going all that far, and that Nigeria has been robbed of a game, and a point. So that's what I think about the Women's World Cup. The 20 minutes of Steve's Women's World Cup rant, and a bunch of topics to go. So let's see what people are talking about. Gina says the NBA isn't good for relationships either, or the NFL isn't good for relationships either. We'd certainly have fewer disagreements if the NFL disappeared, or if the Raiders would just stay in Oakland. Ashley, I don't know why you had to remind me that the Raiders are leaving Oakland. That was just a cruel thing. And then Rebecca's like, no, I meant chronic brain trauma because of concussion. So we failed to understand what you were talking about. And yeah, there's far fewer injuries in other sports because football has a concussion problem. Soccer has a little bit of a concussion problem, but football has a really bad problem. I have 4 topics, and the last one is modesty. But the time I mentioned doing talking about modesty on the internet, I got a bunch of people begging me not to. So let's just go to my section number 2, which is I got a little bit of confusion about the video. The number 1 comment I got under my video about we need to expand our identity. Let me find the actual title. The video was about expanding the identity of what it means to be a Christian, and expanding our imagination of what it means to be a Christian. And the title of the video is just called "Too Many Hot Christians," and it's sitting at 200 views. So yeah, and Joe came in with a strong opinion about VAR. Penalties given after the fact for incidental handballs is the real scourge that VAR brings us. VAR is creating this vibe that that all players shouldn't have arms in order to avoid handballs, and that's a problem. But Joe likes it otherwise, though, so I don't know if I can trust him anymore. So there's a video that I put on called "Too Many Hot Christians," and it is about the experience that a lot of Christians have, which is when they try to think how they are going to live the Christian life, and try to find role models of the Christian life, especially when they're teenagers, and if they are like of the conference-going style of youth ministry, they will go and they will see an example repeated over and over of the Christian, and that is of a well-prepared speaker on a stage. And those speakers I've met plenty of them and worked with some of them. They're usually very good people, very worthwhile, role models, and who are saying worthwhile things. But the problem is, teenagers especially, but a lot of Christians in America now, we've seen that image so many times that it becomes our only understanding of what a Christian can be or do. And so the goal of a good Christian boy or girl is to end up speaking on a stage. That's a problem. That's the problem that I wanted to talk about. And the solution, which I didn't address too much in the video, and I think that's why people got confused. The solution is to start looking for looking at the less glamorous corners of Christianity and Catholicism, and you will find amazing and amazingly holy examples to expand your mind as to what a Christian can be. So look at just the lowly catechist at your parish. Look at moms and dads raising their kids to be Catholic. Look at the Catholic worker, full of like crazy hippies and anarchists who are living the gospel on the street, taking care of the poor no matter what. Look at some of the activists for the pro-life movement. Look at all of these St. Vincent de Paul soup kitchens and or just like your local generous Christian. There are a lot of humble examples and untelevised and unstaged examples of the Christian life, and pray to open your eyes to that so that you can see what's going on, and um and so that you can understand the humble ways that you are being called to serve God, and then you will th- then you can live the Christian life more authentically to yourself, I think. All right, so a few comments on that. Damon Grayson's a little late. Missed me ranting about the World Cup. Joe, again, where have you come across this problem? I'm not sure a single kid in my confirmation class can name a Catholic speech or celeb, which maybe that's on you. That's a good thing, Joe. Don't worry about that. You done good. Um, the catechist at my parish thinks that if you talk about Jesus, it's excluding God, so we should never say Jesus, just God. Rebecca, that's a problem. Your catechist is wrong. You should never mention Jesus. You should just say God. But oh no. I wonder what I just ask. I don't know why I'm assuming she's a she. I wonder what your catechist would say about reading the Gospels every day, because Jesus is mentioned an awful lot in the Gospels, and very explicitly talking for himself, or at least from himself. And even though he's saying these are all things that the Father gave me, it's Jesus the Son that is doing them, and that's why we need better catechists. um, so that. I hopefully that can clear up some confusion about the video. The video was not about how um, there is no such thing as a good Christian, or that conference style preaching or teaching is bad. But it was about, that's only one image of Christianity lived out in the world, and we need to constantly be teaching ourselves, the people around us, and especially our teenagers, all of those other images of Christians in the world. The saints will help us, but the saints will only help us so much. Was another point that I was trying to make, because a lot of the saints, and my example in the video was Monsignor Oscar Romero, but a lot of the saints are martyrs, bishops, founded orders, and stuff like that. And while those definitely, they're strong intercessors, great role models, a heroic ideal we can attain, a lot of the times they don't help you when you are going to high school in a suburb. So that's kind of the tension you feel when you are teaching Christianity. Um, Part of it goes to trying to teach excellence in a very mediocre existence, in a very mediocre world. But so teach people how to love people stewing in that mediocrity, stewing in that kind of closedness of soul. That's what we need to work on, I think. And finally, for today, the Diocese of Los Angeles, the Archdiocese of LA, sent a letter from the bishop to be read to every parish, and it was about this law that I mentioned last week, and that law was SB 360, trying to make uh, priests who hear about molestation in the confessional required to go to the police, and how Catholics say that ruins our seal of confession, which is a canonical understanding of a sacrament, about what a priest can do with what they learned in the confessional. And for the most part, and what it means is they can't do anything. They should forget about it immediately, is what they should do. This is very important to us, and very, very important to the practice of our religion. And so the bishop sent a letter to every parish to be read at mass, and it was essentially a very quick reteaching of what the sacrament of confession is, so that the Catholics can understand it, and then a very quick rundown of what the California government is trying to do, and why we should be against it. And it came with a hashtag, and that hashtag was hashtag keep the seal, which is a little bit silly, and it sounds like uh, it sounds like you're out drinking and you don't want to go to the bathroom yet. But hashtag keep the seal. I don't know how many people have actually used that hashtag online, but it also came with there was like a stack of photocopied letters to our state representative, a long page of talking about what we want from our state representative, which is to vote against this bill or to amend it into oblivion. And Father Tim mentioned that it wasn't exact enough. This keep the seal page that saying that this bill is a bill explicitly meant to keep Catholics away from the sacrament of confession. It's not. It it will probably have that effect, that less people will go to confession, which is so unfortunate. It will have that effect, that less people will go to confession. But what it does is it violates our religious understanding of what it is, and it injects the government into religion in an unprecedented way. This is a legal attack, a legal regulation on a very established religious practice that has been here since before the nation declared independence. And to have this new sort of litigation upon it is unprecedented, probably unconstitutional, and also against my religion on top of all of that. So that's why we are, fighting to make sure that this doesn't become law. And yes, Catholics are gonna fight for it, because no one's gonna fight for us. I've already seen people complaining, why don't Catholics spend all this energy that they're fighting this law to fight this law or this injustice or this thing? One, we do spend a lot of time fighting this law or this injustice or this thing, in advocacy for other people, which is good. That's what we were put on earth to do. But this is an attack on us, on the religion, on our rights, and um, no one else is lining up to defend us. So we're going to defend ourselves. We're going to call out injustice as we see it. So last call for the comments. Let's see what everyone's thinking. All right, Damon. I think we need real, tangible, and accessible role models and teachers, not ones separated by a screen or a stage. That is incredibly true. And that's something I learned from my last couple jobs, is the value of discipleship, of mentorship, also of just like friendship and role models and accessible teachers, like you just said. People who will be with you, who will teach you from their own lives, from a non-pretentious, non-careerist place. And that's what's going to change Christianity. So, Damon, that's your job now. Sorry. That's what you have to do. Ashley mentions Matthew Kelly books. The put together speakers are nice to get you going, but you need more. You need to see the humble servants getting their hands dirty, so to speak. And then she mentions she wished she had the flyer in the diocese. I just posted a picture of that flyer yesterday, so you can print it out and send it yourself. Especially and to your own representative. Ashley, if you live in California, please find your state assembly representative and write them. It got through the state Senate, and has not yet been voted on, to my knowledge, in the state assembly. It's impossible to get news about this thing, by the way. Every time I look, it's only like Catholic news media reporting that it had already passed the Senate and nothing else. I cannot find news about where it is in the state assembly. And then a lot of people complaining about whataboutism, which is true. That was Rebecca and Joe. And then the what if argument. And finally, Rebecca's sister has a biopsy today. So everybody, please pray for Rebecca's sister. And that's how I'm going to sign off. I'm just going to say a Hail Mary for Rebecca's sister and then sign off. So everyone join me if you want to. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.